Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co-author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Joel Goobich. Joel is a head of sales and marketing at Vestorly, and he is author and a podcast host. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Joel Goobich. Joel, welcome.
Well, welcome. Thank you, Siddique. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Great. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Oh, I've had a lot of different careers in my life. I've made a lot of. I've been an entrepreneur for most of it, but I started as a chemist, but quickly went into entrepreneurship. And 2 years ago, I took a sabbatical and wrote a book, which, if we have a chance, I can talk about later on. But I wrote that book in order to give myself leverage for the second or the next part of my career. And it just so happened that while I was writing it, one of my friends had contacted me and said, "Well, I have a good friend in New York that really needs help with their company, and you've got the skill set that they really need." So he put us together, and it just was just the right time and the right place where everything just jives together. And so I started working with the co-founder and current CEO of the company. And one thing led to the other, and I went from being an advisor to being full time working with the company.
Mm, wonderful. So, what are the top three mistakes to avoid when it comes to growing your company?
Hmm. Well, I believe in thinking. And I don't think that we do enough of that. We don't exercise our brain enough. That's a great muscle to use, but we don't think enough. So that's one of the first things that people need to avoid. You have to take the time to think. Don't just act. The second thing is to focus on essentials. We tend to get sidetracked and either go for low hanging fruit or the things that are easy to do. But if we think about it, going back to that first thing, that may not be the essential thing to do. And then the third mistake to avoid is this concept that everything is a sprint. It isn't a sprint. Life is a marathon. Business is a marathon, and you're going to burn yourself out too quickly if you sprint.
What are your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
I've had a couple of failures in my life, and I think that's a good thing to do. Uh, Years ago, I started a company called Out of the Doghouse, and it was a company with an original idea, and I wanted to make it a B2B type of business, and I got persuaded to make it more like a greeting card company, like making cards for saying you're sorry. I put a ton of time into it, and I put a lot of money into it, but I didn't test the hypothesis first. I didn't really think well. So that was one of my biggest failures because I was so sure of myself. I knew that my product was so good, everybody's going to like it. And I found out there really wasn't any market for it.
Okay, and how did you recover from it?
Well, I recovered probably with it was years ago, but I'm sure that there were a couple of bottles of beer and maybe some bourbon along the way. But I really recovered by it really threw me for a loop because I had put a lot of time and money into it. I decided, and this is one thing that I suggest to other people if they're in this situation, take a time out. I took a job. I knew it was going to be a short-term job just to clear my mind instead of running into entrepreneurship again. I just wasn't ready. I needed to repair myself in order to be able to go out there and do it again.
What are your top three success secrets that others can model from?
Well, my first one is my first company. It's called Colorations, and I developed a brand that competed with Crayola worldwide and took around 5% of market share in the educational market from them. I built it from scratch, literally off of credit cards, and after 7 years, I sold it, negotiated a great settlement that paid me out over a period of 25 years. I ended up with more in my pocket by crafting a good exit plan then, and that comes from that thinking that I talked about before. Uh,
Yeah.
I, I also decided I was going to be part of the team that I sold the company to.
Joel, time out, please. Here
Yeah,
is the question. What are your top 3 success secrets that others can model from?
I see. Okay. I thought you want success stories. Okay. So one success secret would be that that if you don't put together a team of people, and you know this is a cliche, but if you don't put together a team of people, you can't do it all yourself. That's one thing that has always worked for me. The other thing is to actually have a plan, to write it down. I know that we put a lot in our heads, but I think the action of actually typing it, writing it, whatever, cements it in place. And the third thing is to always be confident. Always be confident. Even if you don't feel that way, you've got to be confident because somebody on the other side doesn't know you, and that confidence can be the difference between success or not.
Mm. Wonderful. We are about to start a lightning round. That
Okay.
means quick question and quick answer. Are you ready?
Okay.
What are you grateful for today?
That one's an easy one. I am grateful really for my family,
Mm.
my wife, my kids, my friends. They are the core of who I am.
How young are you?
I am 65 years young, going on 30. I've got so much pepper in my blood. I run rings around younger people.
Wonderful. Joel, you are not 65. You are 18 years old with 47 years experience.
I can't even count that high.
What you want to do when you grow up?
Well, growing up is a process. I have one more good book in me and one more business startup that I want to do. I see that I still have that in me.
How do you overcome a challenge life throws at you?
It goes back to what I've said before. I like to step back and think. Um, I'm an action-oriented person, but I want to do the actions that are the right and the essential actions. So I first gauge the essential issues, and then I take action on it. So I like to look at the bigger picture, and then from there know what to do.
How do you start your day?
I start my day with a couple of cups of coffee, read some morning newsletters, and then I go for either a 30-minute brisk walk. If the weather allows, I like to do a good 10-mile bike ride in the area.
What is the advice you will give to younger yourself?
Get into the game of entrepreneurship earlier. I started age 35, 2 kids, a mortgage. Man, I had so much weight on top of me. If I had started earlier, I could have done a whole lot more.
Once you have a revenue generating idea, how do you convince your significant other?
That's the easiest thing. She's the one that's pushed me on some of my various entrepreneurial efforts. She has been my sounding board. So if it's a go, she'll push me. If she doesn't like the idea, then she puts a brake on it.
What is the impactful book you have read and what did you learn from it?
Well, there are a lot of business books that I've read, but this one, Essentialism by Greg McKeown, is one that I recommend to everybody. It's about the simplicity of making decisions, of getting down to the core of an issue. We add so much stuff and we think it's important, but then when you take off the layers like an onion, you peel it away, you get to the core, the essential things. I think that's what drives business. It's what drives us. We allow too much plaque to obscure the view of what we really want to do and should be doing.
I understand that you're author yourself. Can we see your book? What's the
Uh,
title and why someone
absolutely.
should, okay, why someone should read your book? Go for it.
Okay. Absolutely. So my book is called Hyper Leverage, Do More with What You Have for Exceptional Results. And the reason that this is, I think, a good read for anybody, not just in business, is understanding that we have the potential to create leverage for ourselves. And that's what I call hyper leverage, when it's proactive leverage that you can make things happen rather than wait for things to happen.
Why being impactful is important to you?
I think by nature, I'm a teacher and an enabler. I like to mentor other people. I have throughout my career. And I see so much more potential in all of us. So being impactful is, I guess, the way that addresses that trait in me. Being able to help other people is something I don't necessarily do for me, even though it brings me a ton of happiness. I really get happiness vicariously through the things that I can do to help others.
Who is your mentor and what's the impact?
Well, I've had a lot of mentors throughout my career. I'd say right now I wouldn't have mentors as much as professional and good friends that I've leaned on for years. But at this stage in my career, I tend to be more the mentor than the mentee. And that doesn't mean that I don't need mentors. I think everybody needs somebody that can help them. But I find that I'm the one that is in that mentor position now more than ever. The
What do you want to be remembered for?
First and foremost, it's important for me to be remembered by my friends and my family for, being a nice person, being somebody that's helpful. But on a professional basis, I want to be known and remembered for being very creative and innovative. I find those are the things that drive businesses. The creativity, the innovation are the sparks that move the engines forward at a quicker pace.
Who is your ideal client?
Our ideal client would be a company that really understands that content is the way that people are communicating these days. That content is not just a resource, it's an asset, and that it's an absolute. When you're in the digital world, content is the way that you communicate with people. And more importantly, it's the way that you can personalize that communication, and that is king. Personalization is what is going to drive our interactions on the internet going forward.
How can we support you?
Well, Vestorly is a company that deals with content curation, and most of our clients are larger enterprises, and who then are able to use this content for their clients as well as resell it to their client base. So the best way that one of the things that I do is I leverage content all the time. For example, this interview is something that I will leverage, and anybody who is interested can get in touch with me at vestorly.com. More than happy to have a discussion and talk about content. Not a sales call, just a educational call about how content can help you and your business.
We are about to wrap up. I'd like to have your few words about your today's guest experience on the show. And here is my question. What would you say about your today's guest experience on the show?
I've enjoyed this a lot. I think this is a great format. Siddique, you've done a really good job of making it easy for somebody like me, a guest, to come on the show and be able to have an opportunity to talk not only about personal things but also business things. And that's what drives business. It's really the people. It's anybody can do what I call 90-degree angles, features and benefits. But at the end, it's all about the personal connections. If you're connected to somebody, you're going to want to do business with them.
What would you say as a final word?
I want to circle back to the word content, because content is the way that we are connecting with each other, especially in this two-dimensional world called the internet. And content means a lot of different things to different people, but it's more than just information. It's also expresses your values. It's a way for you to cut through all of the noise of everyday life and provide a little peek into who you are. And companies have personalities also. And I think and content, it comes in many different forms, but I think that is one of the things that I'd like your viewers to remember as they listen to this episode.
Thank you so much, Joel, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team, we really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.